Bookaholics, and welcome back to another reading vlog. Was I supposed to start this reading vlog last week? Yes. Did I actually start it? Yes, I did. But I scrapped it because I was just talking incoherently, essentially. I have had family over and it's been lovely, but it means that I have been focusing on spending time with them. So as much as I wanted to vlog all of the Bookopoly, I just needed to focus on my nephews because they're only little once. And I get to see them once a year. So they were the center of my universe for the last week. So that does mean that I am starting this vlog a little bit late. However, the first roll that I rolled is the one that I rolled in my TBR video. So I will play that again here so that you can see what we're dealing with. Roll number 1. 10. Correct. And as I said in that video, I am going to be starting that off with The Way of Kings. Now, last week, reading wasn't quite my strongest suit, granted. I had like 5 days still. And I have read a grand total of 261 pages, which is nothing to snuff at, really, but it's just given my usual pace, it's quite slow. But I have started The Way of Kings, and so far with this one, so I went into this one very much expecting this to be a slow start. It's the first book in a 10-book series. It's going to be slow. So I wasn't expecting to like immediately be enamored. But at the same time, I know that Sanderson's prose is very approachable and it can be quite simplistic, so it should kind of suck you in kind of quickly. And what I found with this one is actually I like his prose more in this one, but for some reason that's making me engage less. Which is a whole new experience, for sure. I've had a mixed ride with Sanderson. Anyone who is not new here knows that I am not the biggest fan of Mistborn. I gave books, I think books 1 and 2, 3, no, books 1 and 3, 3 stars, and book 2, 2 stars. So I'm not the biggest fan of Mistborn, but I did really like Elantris, and I really enjoyed Warbreaker. So I very much had mixed expectations going into this one. On the one hand, it could go the way of Warbreaker and of Elantris, where it could be more my jam. Likewise, given my history with series of Sandersons, it could have been a bit of a dud. This one is neither. I am not liking it as much as I liked Elantris or Warbreaker, but I am finding it very slow and I am not gravitating towards it, which again, I understand it's the first book in a series, but also kind of the job of the first book in a series is to make me want to read the series. So I understand that he's setting up a lot, but I just think that at the same time, if this was new out, if I had never heard of Sanderson before and didn't know the hype and didn't have like every other person being like, go read Sanderson, I am not sure how invested I would be to continue this, especially with it being a 10-book series. So I've been talking to some friends about it actually, and they also are still kind of encouraging me in the sense of like, you know, it's the first book and it takes its time. So we'll see how I feel by the end of this one. But even then, by the end of this one, it's the first half of the book. It's not a full book because I have the UK paperbacks which are split in 2. So it's not even a full book when I get to the end of it. So then I can't really judge it just based on this one, and I have so many conflicting feelings. So we'll see how this goes. But for now, I am okay with it. Like, it's fine. It's nothing unexpected, but I am also not enthralled. Now, because I was not vibing necessarily in the sense of engagement with this one as much as I would like, I decided that I needed another book to go alongside this one. So I rolled again and I went with my second roll. And I also needed a digital book so I could have one that was easily portable, that I could read around the Litlands and stuff, you know, just have it in my hand and not have a book that could get ripped or eaten or the like. So I have rolled again, and this is how it went. Roll number 2. 11. Pentacle. And I got Pentacle, which is a 5-star prediction. So I went with Wayward by Amelia Hart. Wayward is a witchy book, and it's a generational book, and it's feminist AF, and I am very excited for it. I have read the first 20 pages, and I have a couple of thoughts so far, but I really haven't read very much. Because I only picked it up, I think, on Saturday, and then I actually didn't pick it up at all on Sunday, and now it's Monday. So I'm getting there. But there are 3 perspectives. One of them is in first person, and it's very stream of consciousness, very, you are following her through. And I really like the vibe, the etherealness, the historicalness that comes with this story. I'm very, very interested to see which way this one goes as well. And this perspective is that of a woman in the 17th century who is being tried as a witch, and that's all we kind of know at the minute, is that she's being tried as a witch. Then the next perspective that we have is that of a teenager in the 1940s, and this one is in third person, and it's in a bit of like a third person omniscient kind of sense, and we are following her as she, well, at the minute I don't know a huge amount about her other than that she seems to have quite a strict family. I don't know, I haven't read a huge amount about her yet, apart from that she has a strict family. And then the other POV that we have is the one that I've read most of, and that is of a young woman who is in an abusive relationship. She's 29, she's in an abusive relationship, and she has just received an inheritance of a cottage that she has managed to keep secret from her partner, and she is fleeing him. And it's a bit like Sleeping with the Enemy, if anyone's watched that film, with Julia Roberts in it. And that is the consensus of the book, is that all of these women are interlinked, and they have kind of a witchy vibe to them. I haven't got that far yet to know what the witchy vibes are, but I'm hoping to prioritize that one mostly today, but I would like to do a bit of reading of both and see what I can sink my teeth into. So not much to talk about yet, because even though I've had a whole week to build up to this point, I have read like 250, 300 pages. But we move, and we shall continue, and I will keep you posted. Good morning, vlog. It's now Tuesday, so I thought I would check in and do a bit of a reading update, since I actually have more to talk about. I have been working my way through Way of Kings still. I have read a couple more chapters. I'm not a crazy amount of the way into this book though, especially given that it's a 2-parter. So I am definitely sticking with my initial plan of only reading one of the 2 and then reading the other one next month, because I think it's just too much on my noggin at the minute with everything that's going on, with people visiting, etc. So we will move. I have made some progress in Wayward. So far I am liking it. There are 2 POVs that I am liking more than the other one, but I think the other one, it's partly a history nerd in me, potentially. So from the 3 timelines, I am really liking the witchy timeline that we have back in the, I think it's the 1700s. I'm really liking that one. The only problem with that one is that it is the one that is in first person. Sometimes it's really subtle and I don't notice, and then sometimes it's like, oh yeah, this is a change in person. But I like the stream of consciousness vibe that one has, and the almost ethereal nature of that one I'm really liking. And then the modern day timeline is one that it's a harrowing litfic, essentially. It is just one of those where it's like something really difficult has happened in this person's life, and we're following them as they try to make a new start. So I am really liking that one. But the 1940s timeline I am struggling with, I think partly because a lot about the 1940s timeline actually feels more like 1920s. It feels more post-war depression, and it also seems to have a lot of social values that link more to the 1920s than the 1940s. I have several of my relatives that are still alive today that were around in the 1940s that have definitely never depicted their childhood as looking like that. My nan was around in the 1940s, and again, she's never particularly talked about her childhood in this way. So I don't know if that is also, I don't know how much of that is potentially a bit of depending on where in America you are, there are sometimes like the more Puritan values. So I am wondering if there is that element as well, if the author is taking inspiration more from like 1940s more conservative America as opposed to the UK where the book is set. I don't know. I genuinely don't know. But a lot about it is, I'm not saying that families like this one never existed in the 40s. It just there's too much of it that seems to be very like normalized for 1940s that makes me think that she's trying to depict that this is a society-wide thing, and from everything I know that's not the case. So not quite vibing with it because of the way that my brain is just really not linking it. It might be easier for me if I could just be like, oh okay, well then just imagine it's in the 1920s, but I'm too much of a history nerd and there are too many things that are still callbacks to the 1940s, including like technological advancements, etc. So it's weighing it up a little bit, I suppose. Other than that, I am enjoying it so far. It's a decent read. So we'll see how I find the latter half once I've kind of like sunk into it a bit more. But I am also in the final throes of this one. So hopefully after this one, I can go read something, you know, fun and light, because between the topical nature of Wayward being quite a heavy one and then Way of Kings just being a dense read, I am looking forward to, I think, something lighter for my next read. So hopefully my next check-in, which will be tomorrow, I can get back to you and kind of be like, hey, look, I've finished these two and I'm starting something new and cute and fun. And we'll see. Hey vlog, it is Wednesday, so I thought I would check in and let you know that I have made some considerable progress over the last couple of days. I am now done with part 2 of The Way of Kings, which is somewhere. So I'm done with part 2 of The Way of Kings, not book 2, not done with the whole book. The book is divided into parts and part 3 is a very small chunk at the end of the book. So I am hoping that I can finish that over tonight and tomorrow morning and I can be done with The Way of Kings. But more impressively, I am almost done with Wayward. I have been reading a lot of Wayward. It's been easy to just kind of like read on the go. So that's been kind of what I've been reading throughout the morning. And then whenever I've had like a sit down session has been Way of Kings. But Wayward's substantially shorter than I thought it would be for some reason. Like it seemed like it was going to be one of those literaries that would go on. And it's actually quite a short book. So I am nearly done with that as well. So with Way of Kings, I am liking it about the same as I have been commenting all vlog. It's fine. It's setting up the world, it's setting up some intrigue, but I don't have any strong feelings for it. I'd say Kaladin is drawing my interest the most, possibly. Shallan, whatever you want to call her, I am just completely disengaged with. The interludes I actually quite like. The kind of assassination-y side of it with the slaves I quite like. It's just none of it is like, yes, this is why I understand now why this is such an epic series, because I'm fine with it at the moment. So we'll have to see what part 3 brings, and then what book 2 brings to the second half of Way of Kings brings. So yeah, we'll see how part 3 treats me and see if I'm like, yes, this is the best thing. And then for Wayward, I have been starting to get a bit frustrated with the 1940s POV. I think I mentioned this yesterday, that there are just bits to it that is like, okay, that's not 1940s. It feels like older than that and older values than that. So I don't know. Maybe that's just me, but it's frustrating me a little bit. But the other 2 POVs I'm still really, really liking. And I really like our protagonist, Kate. I think that she's the one who's in the contemporary timeline. And I'm really liking reading her perspective. She's one of those that has like a gentle strength to her, and she's like finding that again. And it's about her. It's not about her abuse. It's about her and how she's moving forward, and I really appreciate that. And then Altha, I'm fairly certain it's like sapphic coded. I mean, it's like it's her friend, but it's like, I don't know, it's a bit sapphic. Not gonna lie. So yeah, I'm enjoying it. So I'm hoping that tomorrow I'll be able to pick up something a bit light and a bit fun to kind of contrast these. So we'll see what the roles have in store for me. Hey vlog, it is now Thursday, so I thought I would check in and tell you that I have in fact finished both of my reads. Boy, was this just so much longer than I thought it would be. Like literally I was out here like, oh, I'll be able to do at least 3 rolls a week. And then last week I literally read like a chunk of Way of Kings and a tiny bit of Wayward. So I'm finally done with both of these. I think I started out the month a bit slower than I would have liked, but obviously with starting with a book like this, I did know going in that this would be slow because it is the start of such a mammoth series. It needs to sit up so much. I understand that's why this book is the way it is. I think that for me personally, I would have liked to have a bit more emotional impact for me. I don't think that I have connected with the characters as much as I potentially should have for a first book. I think that Brandon Sanderson did a lot of focus on setting up the intrigue and clearly setting up what future plot will be, despite the fact that at the minute I don't really know what from here is going to be the most important parts and what things are going to carry through. I do have faith that he is genuinely setting up this mammoth series of books that are going to have a lot of plot and a lot of content. He did an awful lot of world building, which is something that he is known for, establishing things like cultures and magic systems, which I think that were decently executed. It's just that for me personally, when I'm starting a series, if I don't have an emotional investment, I don't really understand the point in picking up 10 more books or however many books there are. So I have mixed feelings about this one. I gave this one 3 stars, understanding that this is the first half of a book. This isn't a complete book. This is one of the few times that I would not mind changing my rating in retrospect. Normally, once I've rated a book, I've rated a book, and it's not until I reread that I allow myself the chance to change the rating. This is one of the ones where I would make an exception. If the next book does turn out to be like a 4-star read, then I would potentially change this one to a 4-star, just because obviously it is all one book. I have mixed feelings about this one at the moment. I do think that Kaladin's perspective is probably my favorite at the moment. He is definitely the one that I'm most invested in, but his perspective is very frustrating. It's deliberately frustrating and you understand what Sanderson's doing, but it doesn't make it any less frustrating to read. So there's a lot going on in this that I think has potential, but that just weren't quite shining yet in this particular installment. So I am hopeful for the series. I think that I like the prose in this more. I did think that Sanderson still has very simplistic prose, and everything that he writes is a very simplistic prose. He is definitely one of those that would like the I think the story to speak for itself instead of imposing his narrative style or whatever, which is fine. This one I think did have a bit more of a specific tone and vibe to it than in any of his other works. So clearly this is one that the prose craft was important in. So I think that that's a step up. I'm still more of a standalone girly with Sanderson at the minute. I did really like both Warbreaker and Elantris substantially more than this. This so far has got the same rating as Mistborn, but this one has, for me, a lot more potential than Mistborn had, because there are less things that I'm finding infuriating. At the minute, it's just a lack of engagement as opposed to things I'm disliking. So I still have a lot of hope for it, and I'm excited to continue, which is great. It's a start. And then with Wayward, I also end up giving that 3 stars. So it's just been a really, really crap start to the month, really. Not because 3 stars is a crap rating. I think, both of these books have a lot of merit and they're good books. They're just, when you're starting your favourite season, you kind of wanted to start with some really banging books, and they were just like, oh, I had some problems with these. But with Wayward, the same problems persisted that I have been talking about all vlog, which is basically that there's one perspective that really let the side down for me personally. The 1940s perspective, I wasn't buying in any of of it, like the characters, the world building and the society and the way it's depicted. And like I said, it wasn't even where I could then be like adjust it and be like, in my head I'll just pretend it's the 1920s, because there were too many things that were clearly 1940s references. That was a whole hot mess for me, and I didn't connect with that character. I don't know if that was just my brain being impetuous and angry and like, I don't like this. I don't know, but that's another thing that kind of was a drawback there for me. I did really like the witchy perspective. I think that it kind of tailed off a little bit, but I did like it for the most part. And then the modern day one, I think, was a decent literary fiction in its own right. I think it had enough content kind of almost on its own, and then everything else was just kind of adding to that. And I definitely found that the modern day timeline was the central one, and it did work for me. I was not a fan of the epilogue. Epilogues tend to have that effect where it's like either it really enhances everything and you're like, oh, that wraps it up so nicely, or it's like, oh well, that was kind of shit. And sadly this one just, it wasn't an epilogue that worked for me. I'm sure there are other people it worked for, but it just wasn't my vibe. I obviously cannot talk about it because it's the ending of the book, but yeah, I found the epilogue rather unnecessary. So it's not the best. It could be better. It could have been a better start to the month, but at least we've started it, and now we are over halfway through this week, so let's see if we can squeeze in one more book. I've got obviously today, tomorrow, and then the weekend to finish one more book. So let's see, so long as I don't get like a huge mammoth tome, I should be able to squeeze one more in. So let's go see what the next roll is. Roll number 3. 10. Spoopy. So the next roll was Spoopy. So I am going to be going with The Hex Appeal by Kate Johnson. This is one that is pitched as Encanto meets Hocus Pocus, and I am very, very excited about that combo. That sounds fabulous. And yeah, it just sounds like it's going to be a load of fun, and it's like witchy, but it's a romance, which means that then my brain can just switch off after reading like the level of intensity of emotion that comes with Wayward and the level of brain cells that are needed for Way of Kings. I'm looking forward to just something nice and chill, basically. So yeah, we'll see how this fares. I haven't actually heard anyone talk about this one, so hopefully I will enjoy it, and it's another one that I can bring to you guys' attention. I do really at some point want to read The X-Hex by Erin Sterling, but I have been just picking up a load of like witchy romances lately, and I'm really excited about it, I'm not gonna lie, because I've got Payback's a Witch, but yeah, I've just been in like a fantasy romance, but like contemporary romance mood, like not epic fantasy, where it's like it's mostly a contemporary romance and then it has like a vibe of something else. I think that comes from the Magical Readathon when I read Positively Poisonous, and that one had like all the contemporary vibes but also had witchy vibes, and I really liked that combo. And ever since then I've just kind of been like, whenever I'm in a bit of like a slump and I'm due on, so like I'm just feeling hormonal and I'm like, okay, I am going to be needing some romance in my life, and that's when the witchy ones are coming in at the minute. So clearly autumn is in full swing for my brain. But yeah, that's where I'm at. So I will start that, and then hopefully tomorrow I can give you a little bit of insight into how I am liking or not this book. Hey vlog, so it's Friday and I am actually a really decent ways into the Hex Appeal now. I'm having a good time with it. It's doing what I want it to do in the sense of it's a fun romance with some witchiness to it. There is an element of time travel in this one, which is not ideal. Basically, I don't think that it's well executed. I am not a fan of time travel anyway, so like full disclosure that it's not my thing, but in this particular instance I also don't think that the butterfly effect or whatever you want to call it is actually thought out in any kind of meaningful way. I don't like that element of it, but the rest of it, do you know what, it's a load of fun. The characters are Hallmark movie characters. Like, they are just so over the top. That she is so cutesy that it's almost cringy, and he's so, like, you know, grumpy, and he doesn't like that he's in England and all that kind of thing. And it's so typical, but right now it's just what I need. Like, I genuinely, like, even if this one comes out like a 3-star, which it's entirely looking like it will be because of the time travel stuff, I'm still like hoping that the next role allows me to continue on with this series. Like, I will try and fudge my way into the next role, being able to read, like, continue on with this series, just because it's fun and it's providing what my brain needs right now. Like, it's a cute time, it's a fun time. In this story, we are following a young woman who lives in the UK, and she's a witch, and she has a vision that is kind of like world-ending style vision as soon as this kind of car drives past her. In the meantime, the guy that was in the car gets out, and he's arrived at his family estate, essentially, like an estate that he has inherited from his father, and he's kind of trying to figure out how on earth to run this estate. Like, all of the tenants are in these like binding contracts that basically means they need to pay like a $5 a month on rent and stuff. So he's trying to figure out how to actually be able to afford this estate and what that means, and then it's how the two come together, and it's a romance, and it is a Grumpy Sunshine romance. I'm not much of a romance person, and then every now and then I get the itch to read just something really, really light, and I'll recur to romance, preferably with a little bit of a fantasy element like this one has. So far it's a good time. However, another thing that I have is that I did actually decide to finally buy myself some Ruby chocolate. Ruby chocolate is like the 4th type of chocolate. So you have dark chocolate, brown or milk chocolate, and white chocolate, and the newest type of chocolate is Ruby chocolate. And as a self-professed chocoholic, the fact there is an entire type of chocolate out there that I have never tried before is kind of atrocious. This is actually more real chocolate than white chocolate is, because white chocolate, it's got cocoa, like milk and cocoa butter in it, but it doesn't have actually any like raw cocoa in it. While this one, it does, like it's just from a specific type of cocoa bean that has like a reddish hint to it. Hence the ruby. So I thought, since I'm talking about a rom-com and I'm on my menses, which is exactly the right time to be eating chocolate, I thought I'll try a pink chocolate to go with it. So the first ever taste test for me of Ruby chocolate. I've got it from a Spanish company, like a Spanish chocolatier company, and we shall see. We'll see how this goes. It came really, really well packaged in my Amazon box as well. Like, it had like loads of layers of protective packaging, which was really good. So, oh, she's very pink. She is indeed ruby. All right. Ooh, smells nice. Give it a whiff. It smells closer to dark chocolate. I thought it would kind of resemble white chocolate more, but it smells actually more like dark chocolate, or like a mixture of dark and white chocolate, like we just completely bypassed milk chocolate. All right, let's give it a go. Oh my god, that really does taste different. Oh wow. Okay, I was not expecting this to taste this different. It has a really intense like aftertaste to it. Like, the taste is not the same as dark chocolate, but it's as intense as dark chocolate. The way it hits kind of like the back of your mouth instead of the front of your mouth, like it has to have been in your mouth for a couple seconds for you to be like, oh, there's the flavor. Because I thought, oh, this is just like white chocolate, and then suddenly the flavor hit. I was also kind of expecting there to be a fruitiness to it. I think just because like normally we associate pink with like strawberry, so I think I was expecting there to be a fruitiness to it, which I guess there kind of is, but like not really. It's like a really intense dark chocolate, but doesn't taste like dark chocolate. It's just got that same, the way the flavor hits your tongue. Very weird. Not what I was expecting. Very new. Yay for a new type of chocolate that is actually legitimately a new type of chocolate. Very bizarre experience, but you know what? I like it. I don't think it would be one that I would have like just you know, cozy day in, fancy some chocolate. I don't know, because like I'm not a big dark chocolate girly either for that same reason. Like you need a specific purpose for those. I would be very curious to see how well this one combines with other things. You know, everyone's always putting like other stuff in chocolate or putting chocolate on things. I'd be very curious to see how well this combines with like other flavors. But yeah, ruby chocolate, highlight of my week. Good morning vlog, it's Saturday and I'm actually going to be ending the vlog here. I could do until Sunday like a reasonable person, but I've actually finished all my books, so I figured I'd start the new week with a new role. So we're going to be ending the vlog here. I have finished Hex Appeal, which I ended up giving 3 stars. I think from what I was saying yesterday, that's not a surprise to anyone. It's a decent read. I had a fun time with it. It hit all the spots that I wanted it to. You've got your good old grumpy sunshine going on. And yeah, I had a really fun time with it, but it's not groundbreaking. It's not like a new favorite. It's not doing anything particularly out of the ordinary. And then on top of that, I did find that I did have actual problems with the prose and with the time travel, timey-wimey stuff going on. So lots of pros, some cons. 3 stars seem like a sensible place. It's like in the low 3-star range on CallPile, which I'm fine with. But yeah, so to wrap up the week, we have a 3-star week. Just everything is 3 stars. We had Wayward by Amelia Hart, which I ended up giving. It's a 3.5 on CallPile. I had a good time with it. There was one POV that I liked the plot of, but I just didn't like the way it was executed, which is a real shame. But I still had a good time with the other POVs and I'm glad that I read it. Definitely would pick up something else by this author. I believe they have another book coming out next year, so that's got potential for me. And then we have The Weight of Kings Part 1, which I also gave 3 stars with the potential of it going up to a 4-star if the second half of the book pulls through. And it was a slow and steady opening to a series that I am not quite invested in yet, but I am curious about. And then finally, of course, we have the Hex Appeal, which, as I said, was a fun time, not a long time. So a load of 3 stars this week. It was a solid week. I got to try ruby chocolate for the first time. It's been actually feeling like autumn this week as well. Like we have actually had rain and it's been slowly, the temperature's going down a bit and stuff. So it's getting better and I'm enjoying that aspect. So yeah, good-ish week. But yeah, I hope that you've enjoyed this vlog. I don't really know how to wrap it up because the only thing I've done is finish the Hex Appeal and I don't have strong feelings or thoughts on it. And everything that I said yesterday just still applies. So that's the end. That's the end of this vlog, which just feels very abrupt. But if you've made it this far, thank you ever so much for watching. And I am hoping to still be doing vlogs on a weekly basis. So hopefully I'll be able to get another one to you very soon. And that is all for me for today. So I'll hopefully hear from you again.